Welcome to Profit in Frames, your home for the financial autopsy of horror and psychological thrillers. Tonight, we're dissecting another nightmare, carving into the movie budget, the box office numbers, and the shocking profit behind the fear. Let's begin the operation.
Before we get into the numbers, let's answer the question we always get. For everyone asking where to watch The Conjuring 2 2016, you can currently find it streaming on Max. Now, if you don't have a Max subscription and are wondering where to watch this movie, it's also available to rent or buy from all the usual places like Amazon Prime Video and Apple TV. So to make it simple, the most direct way for where to watch The Conjuring 2 2016 is by streaming it over on Max. In the classic hit The Conjuring 2, starring the incredible duo of Vera Farmiga as Lorraine Warren and Patrick Wilson as Ed Warren, and directed by the modern master of horror, James Wan, best known for creating the Saw and Insidious franchises, audiences experienced a landmark release from New Line Cinema and its parent studio, Warner Bros. Even years after its 2016 debut, the film's impact on the genre is undeniable, making it one of the most celebrated classic movies of the 21st century. It's still constantly compared to other major films and franchises, from genre pillars like The Exorcist to its own sibling franchise, Insidious, showcasing the lasting power of The Conjuring 2 on global cinema, and its continued dominance on streaming platforms like Netflix, Disney+, Max, and Amazon Prime. For movie lovers and film enthusiasts everywhere, this film wasn't just another horror sequel. It was an event that redefined what a supernatural thriller could be, solidifying its place among the all-time great movies in the horror genre. When The Conjuring 2 hit theaters, it wasn't just a release. It was a cultural moment that captured the attention of both dedicated horror fans and mainstream audiences. The plot, which sees Vera Farmiga as Lorraine Warren and Patrick Wilson as Ed Warren travel to England to investigate the infamous Enfield Poltergeist, was the perfect vehicle for director James Wan to showcase his signature style. Wan, already a legend among cinema fans for his work on other hit movies, brought a level of artistry and emotional depth rarely seen in the genre. His camera doesn't just show you the scares. It glides through the haunted Hodgson home, making you feel like an active participant in the terror. This filmmaking prowess is a key reason why The Conjuring 2 is considered one of the top-rated movies in its category, transcending the typical jump scare formula to deliver a genuinely unsettling and emotionally resonant story. The film's success was so profound that it sparked endless movie discussions online, with fans creating movie breakdowns and movie fan theories that continue to this day, especially regarding the introduction of the demonic nun, Valak. The cast of The Conjuring 2 is central to its enduring appeal. The chemistry between Vera Farmiga as Lorraine Warren and Patrick Wilson as Ed Warren is the heart and soul of the franchise. They aren't just paranormal investigators. They are a loving couple whose primary goal is to protect each other and the families they help. This emotional core is what elevates the film beyond being just another scary movie and turns it into a powerful human drama. Supporting them is a phenomenal cast, including Frances O'Connor as the desperate single mother Peggy Hodgson, and an incredible breakout performance from Madison Wolfe as Janet Hodgson, the young girl at the center of the haunting. The studio New Line Cinema, known as the house that Freddy built thanks to A Nightmare on Elm Street, proved once again with The Conjuring 2 that they are the undisputed kings of mainstream horror, delivering a cinematic experience that rivals offerings from any major competitor, whether it's Universal with its monster legacy or Paramount. The film's release in the summer of 2016 saw it go head-to-head with massive blockbuster movies like Warcraft and Finding Dory, yet it carved out a massive audience, proving that a well-crafted horror story is one of the most powerful forces in Hollywood. This is a testament to the vision of James Wan and the compelling narrative that makes The Conjuring 2 such a rewatchable movie, a true piece of movie nostalgia for fans who remember the excitement of its release. From a purely creative standpoint, The Conjuring 2 is a masterpiece of the horror genre, but to truly understand its impact, we must shift our focus to the brilliant financial strategy that made it one of the most profitable films of its year. From an investor's perspective, this movie is a case study in intelligent risk management and explosive returns. The film was produced with an estimated production budget of around $40 million. Now on the surface, that sounds like a lot of money, but in the context of a major studio summer release, it's remarkably lean. This was double the budget of the first film, representing a calculated increase in investment by the studio Warner Bros. And its subsidiary New Line Cinema. This confidence was well placed. A $40 million budget for a film of this scale allowed director James Wan to deliver visuals and set pieces that felt like they belonged in a movie, costing 3 times as much, a strategy that directly impacts the film's financial outlook. A controlled budget is the first and most critical step in engineering a positive global gross forecast. The lower the initial cost, the lower the bar for profitability, which makes the venture far more attractive and significantly boosts the potential equity stake valuation for all financial partners involved, including the production companies of James Wan and producer Peter Safran. The film's financing structure was a straightforward studio-financed model, with Warner Bros. Footing the bill. This means the studio held the majority of the risk but also stood to gain the lion's share of the rewards. This structure is common for a proven franchise, and it demonstrates the studio's belief in the property. Every financial decision made from this point forward was designed to maximize the film's chances of not just meeting, but dramatically exceeding its global gross forecast. The monetization streams for a film like The Conjuring 2 are multifaceted. The primary engine of revenue is, of course, the worldwide theatrical box office. Following that, you have home entertainment sales, video-on-demand rentals, and lucrative international distribution deals. Finally, there's the long tail of revenue from streaming rights, where a film can be licensed to platforms like Max for tens of millions of dollars years after its theatrical run. All of these streams contribute to the final tally, and for investors and profit participants, a strong performance across these channels is what makes their initial equity stake valuation grow exponentially. The initial projections for the film's financial performance were strong, but the final numbers were staggering, demonstrating an incredible ROI, return on investment. When we analyze the performance of The Conjuring 2, the numbers speak for themselves. The film grossed over $321 million worldwide. Against its $40 million production budget, that is an absolutely phenomenal result. This performance didn't just validate the studio's investment, it redefined the financial potential of the entire franchise. A powerful box office run like this has a cascading effect on the film's entire financial lifecycle. It dramatically increases the value of its streaming rights, its television syndication rights, and its appeal in international markets. For anyone holding a piece of the film, this success translates directly into a higher payout, proving their equity stake valuation was an incredibly smart bet. But the true financial genius of The Conjuring 2 extends far beyond its own profit and loss statement. Its most significant contribution was how it massively inflated the overall franchise valuation of the Conjuring universe. The film strategically introduced the demonic nun, Valak, a character so terrifying and visually iconic that it immediately created demand for a spin-off. That spin-off, The Nun, went on to gross over $365 million on its own, spawning its own sequel. This is the ultimate monetization strategy, using one successful film to generate entirely new, highly profitable intellectual properties. This strategic expansion is what transforms a successful movie into a multi-billion-dollar cinematic universe, and it's the single biggest factor in elevating the long-term franchise valuation. Therefore, the initial global gross forecast for The Conjuring 2 wasn't just about one movie's success. It was a forecast for the future of an entire cinematic empire, making the equity stake valuation one of the most lucrative in modern horror history. A great horror movie is more than just scares. It's about characters you truly care about, individuals you root for when the lights go out. In The Conjuring 2, this principle is the very foundation of its success, built upon the phenomenal cast that brings the terrifying story to life. At the heart of it all, we have the return of Vera Farmiga as Lorraine Warren and Patrick Wilson as Ed Warren. Their portrayal of the real-life paranormal investigators is not just acting. It's a masterclass in on-screen chemistry that has made them one of the most beloved duos in modern cinema. For movie fans, their return to these roles was the single biggest draw for The Conjuring 2, transforming it from a simple sequel into a must-watch movie event. These performances are a key reason the film is considered one of the all-time great movies in the horror genre, a timeless classic that feels just as potent today as it did in 2016. The way Vera Farmiga as Lorraine Warren conveys a deep, weary vulnerability, burdened by her psychic visions, is perfectly balanced by the steadfast, protective strength of Patrick Wilson as Ed Warren. They make you believe not only in the haunting but in their relationship, which is the film's emotional anchor. Exploring the actor filmography of these leads reveals why they were the perfect choice. Patrick Wilson was already a horror icon thanks to his collaboration with director James Wan on the Insidious franchise. Cinema fans knew he could carry a supernatural thriller, and his presence in The Conjuring 2 provided a sense of continuity and trust. You can find his earlier horror hits on streaming platforms like Max, and they remain fan-favorite movies to this day. Similarly, Vera Farmiga brought a level of prestige and dramatic weight to the role of Lorraine Warren. Known for her Oscar-nominated work in films like Up in the Air and her chilling performance in the series Bates Motel, she elevated the material beyond simple genre fare. Her ability to project both immense strength and profound fear is what makes Lorraine Warren such a compelling character. New Line Cinema strategically cast actors who were not just scream kings and queens, but serious dramatic talents, a decision that paid off immensely and contributed to the film's status as a top-rated movie. Of course, the brilliance of the cast in The Conjuring 2 extends beyond its leads. The film introduces us to the Hodgson family, and the casting here was absolutely critical. Frances O'Connor plays Peggy Hodgson, the terrified and overwhelmed single mother, with a raw authenticity that makes the family's plight deeply moving. But the true breakout star is Madison Wolfe as Janet Hodgson, the young girl targeted by the malevolent spirit. For a child actor to carry such intense, emotionally draining scenes is a monumental task, and Wolfe's performance is nothing short of breathtaking. It's a role that could easily rival the iconic performances of child actors in other horror classic movies like The Exorcist. The fan engagement with movies like this often centers on such powerful performances, leading to countless movie breakdowns and discussions online about the incredible talent on display. The supporting cast, including Simon McBurney as the real-life paranormal investigator Morris Gross, adds another layer of credibility to the story, grounding the supernatural events in a believable reality. This ensemble is a huge reason why The Conjuring 2 is such a rewatchable movie, as audiences discover new nuances in the performances with each viewing, contributing to its powerful sense of movie nostalgia. The film's casting feels perfect, and it's difficult for any movie lover to imagine anyone else in these iconic roles. But the brilliance of the casting for The Conjuring 2 extends far beyond the screen and the critical acclaim. From a financial and strategic perspective, it's a masterclass in budget management and talent incentivization, anchored by one of the most powerful and effective tools in Hollywood deal-making, back-end participation. For a sequel to a runaway hit, the studio Warner Bros. Faced a common challenge. The lead actor's value had skyrocketed. To secure Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, they couldn't simply offer the same modest upfront pay they received for the first film. This is where a sophisticated compensation package becomes crucial. Instead of bloating the production budget with massive upfront actor salaries, the studio almost certainly structured deals heavily weighted toward back-end participation. This means the actors agree to a more moderate guaranteed salary in exchange for a percentage of the film's profits. It's a strategic partnership where the talent bets on themselves and the success of the film, a move that has profound financial implications for the entire project. This approach is fundamental to managing costs while securing the essential talent needed to guarantee a blockbuster. Let's break down the numbers with some industry-standard estimates. For a film like The Conjuring 2, the upfront actor salaries for the two leads might have been in the estimated range of $3 to $5 million each. While a significant raise from the first film, this is still a manageable figure for a $40 million production budget. The real prize, however, lies in the back-end participation. These deals are typically structured as points, where each point represents a percentage of the film's gross profits after it reaches a certain break-even point. If Wilson and Farmiga each negotiated, for example, 2-3 points, their final take-home pay from a movie that grossed over $320 million could easily climb into the 8-figure range, far exceeding what they would have earned from a flat upfront salary. This structure is a win-win. For the studio, it keeps fixed costs down, which is crucial for maximizing the initial ROI, return on investment. For the actors, it offers an unlimited ceiling on their earnings and makes them true partners in the film's success. This alignment of interests is what makes back-end participation such a powerful tool. It incentivizes the stars to heavily promote the film, as its box office success directly translates into their own financial gain. The strategic genius of relying on back-end participation is further highlighted when we consider the concept of star power ROI. The return of Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson was not just a creative necessity. It was a financial imperative. Their presence drastically lowered the marketing burden because they were the marketing. The built-in audience for the Warrens guaranteed a massive opening weekend. The studio's investment in their generous back-end participation deals was, in essence, an investment in a guaranteed return. The casting risk was virtually zero. Recasting the roles would have been catastrophic for the franchise's identity and box office potential. By offering a lucrative back-end deal, the studio secured its most valuable assets while motivating them to deliver performances that would propel the film to new heights. This financial structure has a direct and significant impact on the long-term franchise valuation. A stable, committed, and beloved core cast is one of the most valuable assets a franchise can have. The success of The Conjuring 2, fueled by its perfectly cast leads who were financially invested in its outcome through back-end participation, solidified the foundation of the entire Conjuring universe. It proved the model was repeatable and wildly profitable, paving the way for a multi-billion-dollar franchise and making the equity held by the studio and its key talent immensely valuable. Beyond the jump scares and the chilling atmosphere, the true power of The Conjuring 2 lies in its impeccably crafted story. This isn't just a collection of terrifying moments. It's a deep, layered narrative that has sparked endless discussion, making it a favorite for viewers who love a good story breakdown. The film's plot is famously based on the real-life Enfield Poltergeist case, which immediately grounds the horror in a disturbing reality. The story summary is straightforward on the surface. Ed and Lorraine Warren travel to North London to help the Hodgson family, who are being tormented by what appears to be the ghost of an old man named Bill Wilkins. But the genius of the screenplay analysis lies in how it subverts this simple premise, weaving a complex tale of faith, doubt, and a hidden evil. For fans searching online for a detailed narrative breakdown, The Conjuring 2 offers a rich text to explore, with its dual storylines following both the besieged family and Lorraine Warren's personal battle with a premonition of her husband's death. This structure elevates the film beyond similar movies in the genre, creating emotional stakes that are just as compelling as the supernatural threat. The part of the film that generates the most online traffic is, without a doubt, The Conjuring 2 ending explained. The final act delivers a brilliant twist ending that recontextualizes everything the audience has seen. Throughout the film, we are led to believe that the spirit of Bill Wilkins is the malevolent force haunting Janet Hodgson. However, the ending explained reveals that Bill is merely a pawn, a tormented soul being manipulated by a far more powerful and sinister entity, the demonic nun, Valak. This reveal is a masterstroke of franchise-level storytelling. The demon, which has been haunting Lorraine's visions since the film's opening scene at the Amityville house, is the true mastermind. This connects the seemingly disparate hauntings and establishes a personal antagonist for the Warrens. The climax hinges on Lorraine realizing she learned the demon's name in an earlier vision. By speaking its name, Valak, she gains dominion over it and condemns it back to hell, saving both Ed and the Hodgson family. This resolution is incredibly satisfying and highlights the film's core movie themes of faith, the power of knowledge, and the strength of the Warrens' partnership. This masterful conclusion is a breeding ground for the Conjuring 2 fan theories. With no official post-credit scene, the film itself serves as the setup for the wider universe. One of the most popular fan theories suggests that Valak was never truly interested in the Hodgson family. The entire Enfield haunting was an elaborate trap designed to lure the Warrens and specifically to kill Ed, fulfilling Lorraine's vision. Another prominent theory explores the nature of the Crooked Man, another terrifying entity that appears in the film. Is he another form of Valak or a separate demon under its control? This kind of world building is what keeps fan engagement high and drives viewers to seek out a deeper story breakdown. These spoilers and discussions are what have kept The Conjuring 2 relevant in online forums and on YouTube years after its release. The screenplay cleverly plants seeds that blossom into entire spin-off franchises, proving that the narrative of The Conjuring 2 wasn't just built for one movie, but was designed as the central pillar for an entire cinematic universe, rivaling the interconnected storytelling of major franchises from competitors like Disney's Marvel or Netflix's expanding genre worlds. From a financial perspective, the screenplay for The Conjuring 2 is far more than just a creative document. It is the architectural blueprint for a multi-billion-dollar asset. An investor analyzing this film must look beyond the scares and see the story itself as the primary driver of its immense profitability and long-term value. The process begins with the initial investment in the narrative, the script development cost. For a high-profile sequel in a proven franchise, this is a critical but relatively small expenditure. Based on industry benchmarks, including Writers Guild of America scale for A-list writers and multiple rounds of revisions, the total cost for developing the screenplay for The Conjuring 2 could easily range from $750,000 to over $2 million. While this seems substantial, it's a tiny fraction of the overall budget, yet it yields the highest return. This initial capital allocation is what laid the groundwork for the film's entire financial success, directly fueling the explosive growth of the franchise's IP valuation. This story wasn't just written, it was engineered for maximum financial impact. Every story carries a degree of creative risk, and The Conjuring 2 was no exception. The decision to pivot from a traditional ghost story centered on Bill Wilkins to revealing a master villain demon, Valak, was a significant gamble. If the audience didn't buy into this new antagonist, or if the twist felt unearned, it could have undermined the entire film, negatively impacting its box office potential. However, the risk-return ratio on this creative decision was astronomically favorable. The risk was moderate, but the potential reward, as we now know, was a completely new sub-franchise. The successful introduction of Valak was the single most important element for the long-term financial health of the Conjuring universe. This move is a textbook example of how to leverage a story for content monetization far beyond a single film's revenue streams. The character of Valak, born from the screenplay, became a new pillar of intellectual property, generating hundreds of millions of dollars through spin-off films, merchandise, and licensing, dramatically increasing the overall franchise equity valuation. This brings us to the film's sequel potential score, which can only be rated as extremely high, a perfect 10 out of 10. The screenplay for The Conjuring 2 is a masterclass in building a universe. By not just resolving the Enfield case, but also introducing two visually distinct and terrifying new villains, Valak and the Crooked Man, the story provided the studio with a pipeline of future projects. Each new demon is a potential spin-off, a new branch of the cinematic tree. This forward-thinking narrative design is the engine that drives the franchise IP worth. The story ensures that the universe can expand in multiple directions, keeping the content fresh and the audience engaged. This strategy of embedding new IP within an existing successful film is the pinnacle of modern content monetization. It transforms a single movie from a one-time revenue event into a self-sustaining ecosystem of interconnected financial assets. The story of The Conjuring 2 didn't just earn money. It created a machine that continues to print money for the studio, cementing the Conjuring universe's franchise IP worth as one of the most valuable and efficiently built in cinematic history. When we talk about what makes The Conjuring 2 a modern horror classic, we have to go beyond the story and the characters and dive into the very fabric of how the film looks and feels. The cinematography and visual effects are not just supplementary, they are the engine of the terror, meticulously designed to pull the audience into the haunting. Director James Wan and his director of photography, Don Burgess, crafted a visual style that is both elegant and absolutely terrifying. For movie lovers who appreciate the art of filmmaking, The Conjuring 2 is a masterclass in cinematic storytelling. Wan is famous for his fluid, long takes, where the camera drifts through the hallways and rooms of the Hodgson house like a ghostly presence. This technique does more than just look cool. It builds an almost unbearable amount of suspense, making the audience feel trapped in the house right alongside the family. This sophisticated camera work is a key element of the film's cinematic excellence, elevating it far above typical horror fare and turning it into a fan-favorite movie for its sheer craftsmanship. The film's most memorable scenes are often a perfect fusion of practical effects, clever cinematography, and seamless visual effects. Think of the iconic sequence where Lorraine Warren confronts the demon Valak in her husband's study. The painting of the nun is terrifying on its own, but the way the scene is lit, with shadows consuming the room, and how the camera slowly pushes in on Lorraine's terrified face is what makes it unforgettable. Then when the figure steps out of the painting, the VFX scenes are so well integrated that the line between what's real and what's CGI becomes blurred. Fans looking for a CGI breakdown of this scene will find a brilliant blend of techniques, from a performer in heavy makeup to digital enhancements that create an uncanny, otherworldly effect. This thoughtful approach to visual effects is a hallmark of The Conjuring 2. Unlike many blockbuster visuals that rely on overwhelming CGI, this film uses its effects sparingly and with precision, making them far more impactful when they do appear. Another standout example of the film's stunning visual style is the Crooked Man sequence. Inspired by an old English nursery rhyme, the scene uses a mix of stop-motion-like practical effects and subtle CGI to create a creature that is genuinely nightmarish. The jerky, unnatural movement of the character is a testament to the filmmaker's creativity, a topic that always comes up in behind-the-scenes featurettes. The choice of filming locations, primarily soundstages in Los Angeles meticulously designed to replicate a 1970s London council house, also plays a crucial role. The production design creates a claustrophobic and dreary environment that enhances the sense of dread. Don Burgess's use of lighting design, often employing single sources of light in darkened rooms, creates deep shadows where anything could be lurking. It's this meticulous attention to film aesthetics and scene composition that makes The Conjuring 2 so effective. The cinematography isn't just capturing the action. It's an active participant in the horror, guiding our eyes, building our fear, and ultimately delivering the unforgettable scares that have cemented the film's place in horror history. From a financial analyst's perspective, the cinematography and visual effects of The Conjuring 2 represent one of the most brilliant examples of capital allocation efficiency in modern blockbuster filmmaking. The film achieved a premium, high-end look on a mid-range budget, which is the holy grail for any studio investor. This success is rooted in a core strategic principle, maximizing the ROI versus visual complexity. Instead of pouring money into expensive, computer-generated spectacle, the production team invested in smart, atmospheric filmmaking that delivered scares far more effectively and at a fraction of the cost. This intelligent spending is a primary reason the film was so profitable, and it laid the foundation for its massive cumulative earnings over its lifetime. It's a case study in how to make a $40 million film feel like a $150 million event. Let's dig into the numbers with some informed estimates. The total VFX budget for The Conjuring 2 likely fell within the range of $5 to $8 million. While that's a significant sum, it represents only about 15–20% of the total $40 million production budget. For a summer blockbuster, this is an incredibly lean allocation for visual effects. Compare that to a CGI-heavy superhero film, where the VFX budget can easily consume 50% or more of the total production cost. This is the essence of the film's strategy. The financial success was not built on overwhelming the audience with digital creations, but on creating a high ROI versus visual complexity. The terror of the Valak painting scene, for instance, comes 90% from practical lighting, performance, and camera movement. The small amount of CGI used to enhance the scare was the final, cost-effective touch. This approach keeps post-production spending in check and ensures that every dollar on screen is maximized for emotional and terrifying impact, which in turn drives the box office and boosts the film's eventual cumulative earnings. Further breaking down the costs, let's consider the CGI cost per minute. For the few scenes that did rely more heavily on digital effects, like the Crooked Man sequence or Valak's final confrontation, the cost would have been high. Based on industry averages for complex character animation, this could be in the range of $100,000 to $250,000 per finished minute of screen time. However, because these sequences were short and strategically placed, the overall financial impact was controlled. This again speaks to the brilliant balance of ROI versus visual complexity. The film didn't need 20 minutes of a CGI monster. It needed 2 minutes of a perfectly executed, terrifying one. This efficiency is critical. The money saved on extravagant VFX was reallocated to other areas like production design and sound, which contribute just as much to the horror. This smart financial management directly contributed to the film's robust profit margins. A lower initial investment means a faster path to profitability, which is music to the ears of any investor. The film's theatrical run was just the beginning. Its strong profitability made it a highly valuable asset for streaming, home video, and international sales, all of which have contributed to its enormous cumulative earnings over the years. The financial legacy of The Conjuring 2 proves that in the world of filmmaking, it's not about how much you spend on visuals, but how wisely you spend it. The film's incredible financial success is a direct result of its masterful approach to balancing artistic vision with fiscal discipline, a perfect demonstration of high ROI versus visual complexity, leading to phenomenal long-term returns. In the world of horror, sound is often more terrifying than sight, and the music and soundtrack of The Conjuring 2 are a masterclass in auditory terror. The film's sonic landscape is just as crucial as its haunting visuals, and it's an element that fans and film music enthusiasts constantly discuss. The man behind the chilling sounds is the brilliant composer, Joseph Bishara. As the go-to musical voice for the entire Conjuring universe, Bishara has developed a signature style that has become synonymous with the franchise. His iconic score for The Conjuring 2 is not just background noise, it's an active character in the film, a malevolent force that signals impending doom. The official soundtrack, or OST, is filled with dissonant strings, booming brass, and eerie, atmospheric textures that crawl under your skin and stay there long after the credits roll. For anyone searching for the soundtrack list, they'll find tracks with titles like Valak and Enfield, which perfectly capture the film's terrifying essence. Joseph Bishara's approach to the thematic score is what sets it apart. He doesn't rely on simple, repetitive jump scare stingers. Instead, he builds a pervasive sense of dread, using unconventional orchestral techniques to create a sound that feels both organic and otherworldly. This cinematic music is a perfect example of music-driven storytelling. The score often tells you what to feel before you even see the threat, creating a Pavlovian response in the audience. When you hear those signature screeching violins, you know something terrible is about to happen. This effectiveness is why the soundtrack has gained such acclaim and has a dedicated following on streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. The soundtrack popularity is a testament to how well the music works, not just within the context of the film, but as a standalone listening experience for fans of dark, ambient music. The trailer music for The Conjuring 2 also expertly used Bishara's themes, blending them with sound design to create a marketing campaign that was as sonically terrifying as the film itself. However, the soundtrack of The Conjuring 2 isn't just about the terrifying score. One of the most memorable themes and fan-favorite songs from the film is a moment of pure heart and humanity amidst the horror. This is, of course, the scene where Patrick Wilson, as Ed Warren, picks up a guitar and sings a touching rendition of Elvis Presley's "Can't Help Falling in Love" to the Hodgson family. This is one of the most beloved songs in the movie, and it serves a brilliant narrative purpose. It provides a moment of warmth and light, making the subsequent return to darkness all the more jarring. It's a moment that showcases the emotional range of the film and has become an iconic track in its own right, with clips of the scene being shared constantly on social media. This perfect balance between Bishara's terrifying iconic score and the carefully chosen needle drops is what makes the OST of The Conjuring 2 so effective. It's a complete auditory journey that captures every emotional beat of the film, from sheer terror to profound love, solidifying its place as one of the great modern horror soundtracks. The streaming success of both the score and the licensed tracks demonstrates the incredible impact the film's music had on audiences worldwide. From a financial analyst's viewpoint, the soundtrack of The Conjuring 2 is a distinct and highly profitable asset class, a perfect example of how auditory intellectual property can be monetized through multiple, lucrative revenue streams. The value creation begins with a carefully managed music budget. For a film of this scale, the total budget allocated to music, including the composer's fee, orchestration, recording, and licensing, would likely be in the estimated range of $1 to $2. $5 million, this is a significant investment, but one that yields returns far beyond its initial cost. The composer fee for an established genre talent like Joseph Bishara could command anywhere from $400,000 to $800,000. This fee secures the creation of the film's unique sonic identity, the iconic score, which is the cornerstone of its musical IP. This original score is where the long-term value truly lies, as it opens up a world of monetization opportunities, primarily through sync licensing and perpetual royalty income. The second major component of the music budget is music rights acquisition. The film cleverly features Patrick Wilson performing "Can't Help Falling in Love." Licensing a song of this magnitude, even for a cover performance, involves significant costs and complex negotiations. A master license for a classic Elvis song could cost anywhere from $75,000 to over $200,000, depending on the scope of the rights acquired. While this is a substantial upfront cost, the emotional impact and marketing value of that scene provided a massive return on investment. This is where the strategy becomes clear. The original score, owned by the studio, becomes a long-term asset for generating royalty income, while the licensed song provides immediate, powerful narrative impact. Every time the film is broadcast on television, streamed on a platform, or sold on Blu-ray, a small payment is made to the rights holders, generating a steady, passive stream of royalty income for decades. This consistent, low-maintenance revenue is an investor's dream and a key component of the film's long-tail profitability. Beyond passive earnings, the real high-margin revenue comes from sync licensing. This is the process of licensing a piece of music for use in other media, such as movie trailers, commercials, or video games. The terrifying and instantly recognizable themes from the Conjuring 2 score are prime candidates for this. A studio could charge a significant fee, potentially ranging from $25,000 to $150,000 or more, for a single sync licensing deal to use a track like Valak in the trailer for another horror film or a Halloween-themed commercial. This is where the intellectual property of the score becomes a proactive revenue generator. Furthermore, this demonstrates the power of franchise synergy. the main musical themes created for The Conjuring 2 can be repurposed in sequels and spin-offs, reinforcing the brand's identity without incurring new composition costs. This creates an interconnected sonic universe that enhances the value of the entire franchise. Finally, we have the direct revenue from the soundtrack itself. While the era of massive physical album sales is over, the album sales ROI in the digital age is still a meaningful contributor. Revenue from platforms like Spotify and Apple Music, while small on a per-stream basis, adds up over time, contributing to the pool of royalty income. A popular soundtrack like this can generate a consistent six-figure annual income from streaming alone. When you combine the upfront fees from sync licensing, the steady stream of royalty income, and the digital album sales, the initial investment in the music budget is not just recouped, it's multiplied many times over. The soundtrack for The Conjuring 2 is a perfect illustration of how a well-crafted musical strategy can create a valuable, evergreen financial asset that continues to enrich the film's cumulative earnings long after its theatrical run has ended. The legacy of a truly great film like The Conjuring 2 extends far beyond the screen. It seeps into our culture, creating a vibrant ecosystem of fan engagement that keeps the story alive for years. This is where the world of official merchandise, collectibles, and passionate fan culture comes into play. For The Conjuring 2, the fan response was immediate and explosive, driven by the unforgettable new characters it introduced. While you won't find many lunchboxes for a terrifying horror film, the market for high-quality franchise collectibles is massive, and this film delivered two of the most merchandisable horror icons of the 21st century. The demonic nun, Valak, and the unsettling crooked man. This is where the real merchandise hype began. Companies like NECA and Mezco, famous for their hyper-detailed action figures, quickly began producing stunning collectibles of Valak that became must-have items for horror enthusiasts. These weren't just toys, they were pieces of art, from premium format statues to articulated action figures that perfectly captured the character's terrifying presence. The pop culture impact of Valak cannot be overstated, and it directly fueled a massive wave of fan engagement. One of the most visible and exciting forms this took was cosplay. Almost overnight, Valak became a staple at fan conventions and Halloween parties around the world. The striking, high-contrast look of the character made it a perfect choice for cosplay, and the sheer volume of fans dressing up as the nun created a tidal wave of free marketing and social media buzz. This organic excitement was supported by the studio's savvy social media campaigns, which often featured and celebrated fan creations, from incredible fan art to makeup tutorials. This symbiotic relationship between the studio and the fans is what keeps a franchise healthy and relevant. The studio provides the world, and the fans inhabit it, creating their own content and deepening their connection to the material. Even the creepy zoetrope toy that introduces the crooked man in The Conjuring 2 sparked a trend, with fans and boutique creators trying to replicate the unsettling antique, leading to limited edition releases and a whole submarket of fan-made collectibles. Beyond the high-end collectibles, the official merchandise for The Conjuring 2 also included more accessible items like themed apparel and classic movie posters. T-shirts featuring the haunting face of Valak or the film's iconic logo became a way for fans to signal their love for the franchise. The studio also capitalized on the hype with exclusive drops, often tied to the Blu-ray release or special events, which created a sense of urgency and excitement among collectors. This merchandise strategy is comparable to what we see with massive franchises like Star Wars or Marvel, albeit on a more niche horror-focused scale. The key is creating iconic, visually distinct characters that fans want to own a piece of. The Conjuring 2 did this with masterful efficiency. The fan engagement wasn't just a byproduct of the film's success, it was a core part of its ongoing legacy, with viral trends and TikTok challenges inspired by the film's scariest moments still popping up today. This passionate community ensures that The Conjuring 2 is more than just a movie, it's a cultural touchstone. From a financial and brand management perspective, the merchandise and fan engagement strategy for The Conjuring 2 represents a textbook case of high-margin, low-risk revenue diversification. For an investor, this is one of the most attractive aspects of a successful film franchise. The studio, Warner Bros., doesn't need to build factories or manage supply chains to profit from toys and apparel. Instead, they leverage their most valuable asset, their intellectual property, through a highly lucrative business model centered on licensing and royalties. This is where the studio grants third-party manufacturers the rights to produce and sell merchandise based on the film in exchange for a fee, and most importantly, a percentage of the sales. This percentage is the licensed product royalty, and it is the financial lifeblood of any merchandising program. This model allows the studio to generate millions in revenue with minimal operational overhead, making it an incredibly efficient way to monetize the film's success. Let's explore the financial mechanics with some industry-standard estimates. A typical licensed product royalty rate ranges from 8% to 15% of the wholesale price of a product. So for every high-end Valak statue that a company like Sideshow Collectibles sells to a retailer for $200, the studio might receive a licensed product royalty of $20 to $30 without ever touching the product itself. Now let's consider the projected sales. Given the instant popularity of Valak, the branded toy revenue alone could easily be projected to exceed $50 to $100 million in global retail sales within the first few years of the film's release. When you apply the licensed product royalty rate to these figures, you're looking at a potential income of $5 to $15 million for the studio from this category alone. This is an incredibly powerful stream of high-margin revenue. The success of this strategy hinges on strong retail partnerships. Securing shelf space at major retailers like Walmart, Target, Hot Topic, and on e-commerce giants like Amazon is critical. These partnerships provide the distribution network needed to reach a mass audience and convert the film's cultural heat into tangible sales, turning social media buzz directly into revenue. This is where the concept of fan-driven ROI becomes so crucial. The entire merchandising machine is fueled by organic, unpaid fan passion. Every time a fan shares a photo of their Valak cosplay on Instagram, they are acting as a brand ambassador. Every TikTok video reacting to a jump scare is a free advertisement. This authentic, user-generated content is far more powerful and credible than a traditional ad campaign. The massive wave of cosplay and fan art created a self-perpetuating marketing loop that drove immense demand for the official merchandise. This is the essence of fan-driven ROI. The fans' passion creates the demand, which drives sales, which in turn generates the licensed product royalty income for the studio. The studio's initial investment was in creating a great film with iconic characters. The return on that investment is amplified 100-fold by the free marketing and direct sales driven by the fans themselves. Furthermore, this opens the door for lucrative cross-brand monetization. The iconic status of Valak makes it a prime candidate for partnerships with other brands, such as Funko for their Pop figures or Universal Studios for their Halloween Horror Nights attractions. Each of these partnerships represents another stream of licensed product royalty income, further diversifying the film's revenue portfolio. The merchandising success of The Conjuring 2 is a perfect illustration of how a well-told story can create intellectual property so powerful that it transcends the screen and becomes a highly profitable, evergreen consumer brand. The official trailer for The Conjuring 2, dropping with teaser release moments that sparked massive fan buzz, set the stage for a premiere event rivaling any competitor's press tour excitement, while the social media campaign built theatrical release hype across the globe. You have to remember the atmosphere in 2016. The first Conjuring film had become a word-of-mouth phenomenon, so the anticipation for the sequel was sky-high. What the marketing team at Warner Bros. did so brilliantly was harness that energy and amplify it into a global event. The initial teaser release was a masterclass in less is more, giving just a glimpse of the Enfield setting and a few heart-stopping sound cues. It was enough to get the internet buzzing, with reaction videos and breakdown theories flooding YouTube within hours. Then the full movie trailer dropped, and it was a perfectly engineered piece of horror marketing. It leaned heavily on the based on a true story angle, showcasing the real-life recordings of the Enfield Poltergeist, which lent an incredible sense of authenticity and dread. The trailer also gave us our first proper look at the demonic nun, Valak, an image so terrifying it was destined to go viral. This initial wave of hype was sustained and amplified by a cutting-edge social media campaign. The studio released short, terrifying clips optimized for platforms like Facebook and Twitter, often featuring the film's best jump scares. They even created 360-degree virtual reality videos that allowed fans to step inside the haunted Hodgson house, a novel and immersive tactic at the time. This digital strategy was complemented by more traditional marketing, including a barrage of effective TV spots that aired during major sporting events and popular TV shows, ensuring that even casual audiences were aware that The Conjuring 2 was coming. The cast and director also embarked on an extensive press tour, appearing on talk shows and in interviews to share spooky behind-the-scenes stories, further building the narrative that this was more than just a movie. It was a terrifying real-life event. As the release date neared, the campaign culminated in a star-studded premiere event, which generated a final wave of media coverage and fan excitement. All of these carefully coordinated efforts ensured that by the time the film's theatrical release arrived, it was positioned as the must-see horror event of the summer. The worldwide release was a massive success, dominating the box office and proving the power of a perfectly executed marketing strategy. Years later, the film continues to find new audiences through its streaming debut on platforms like Max, where a new generation discovers the terror of the Enfield Poltergeist. The marketing for The Conjuring 2 didn't just sell a movie, it created a cultural moment and solidified the franchise as a modern horror institution. From a financial analyst's perspective, the marketing and distribution of The Conjuring 2 is a case study in how a well-managed and substantial investment in marketing can yield an outstanding return. The entire campaign was built around a significant financial commitment known as the P&A budget, which stands for prints and advertising. This is the money spent after the film is finished to market it to the world and distribute it to theaters. For a major sequel like this, the P&A budget is often as large, if not larger, than the production budget itself. Based on industry benchmarks for a wide global release, the worldwide P&A budget for The Conjuring 2 was likely in the estimated range of $60 to $80 million. This massive spend was a calculated risk, but a necessary one to elevate the film from a simple horror sequel to a global blockbuster event. Every dollar of this budget was a strategic investment aimed at achieving one primary goal: maximizing the marketing spend ROI. To understand the return, we first need to break down the costs. The largest portion of the P&A budget is allocated to media buying costs. This includes purchasing expensive television ad slots, running massive digital campaigns on Google and social media, and securing outdoor advertising like billboards. For a film like The Conjuring 2, these media buying costs could have easily consumed over 70% of the entire P&A budget, representing a $40 to $60 million expenditure. Now let's look at the revenue side. When a film grosses $321 million worldwide, that money isn't all returned to the studio. The first major deduction is the theatrical revenue split, an agreement where theaters keep a percentage of the ticket sales. Domestically, this split is typically around 50%, while internationally the studio's share is often lower, around 40%. So, from the film's $102 million domestic gross, the studio would receive roughly $51 million. From the $219 million international gross, they would receive approximately $88 million. This gives the studio a total theatrical take of around $139 million. On top of this, the distributor, Warner Bros., charges distribution fees, which can range from 10% to 30% of the revenue, further reducing the profit pool. With these figures, we can now calculate the all-important marketing spend ROI. If we take the estimated theatrical revenue of $139 million and measure it against a median P&A budget of $70 million, the initial marketing spend ROI from theatrical alone is nearly 2x. This is a very strong and healthy return, especially for a film in a genre that can often have a limited audience. This success is where a more granular metric, profit margin per screen, becomes incredibly insightful. Because horror films have a lower production cost than massive blockbusters, but can still play on a similar number of screens, their potential profit margin per screen is often much higher. This efficiency means that even in theaters where it didn't top the box office, The Conjuring 2 was likely generating more net profit for the studio per screen than a more expensive competing film. Key stat: with an estimated $70 million P&A budget and a studio theatrical take of approximately $139 million, the baseline marketing spend ROI is nearly 200%, a figure that grows substantially when ancillary revenues are included. This demonstrates a highly effective campaign. The significant investment in the P&A budget was not just a cost, it was the engine that transformed a $40 million production into a global financial success, proving that a smart, aggressive marketing strategy is essential to unlocking a film's maximum profitability and achieving a phenomenal marketing spend ROI. Fans of the first Conjuring's genre-defining terror and Insidious, Chapter 2's heart-pounding supernatural world will find The Conjuring 2, 2016, bridges both worlds, delivering blockbuster storytelling moments that rival franchise-level hits now streaming on Netflix, HBO Max, or Disney+. When a film achieves the perfect storm of commercial success and critical adoration like the first Conjuring did, its sequel is born under a shadow of immense pressure. The dreaded sequel curse looms large, particularly in the horror genre, where follow-ups often devolve into cheap cash grabs that misunderstand what made the original special. To truly appreciate the monumental achievement of The Conjuring 2, we must analyze it not in isolation, but within the competitive and creative landscape of its time. We need to break down its most significant genre rivals, dissect its fierce box office competition, and understand its revered standing among the great horror fan favorites. For any movie lover searching for similar movies or interested in diving into deep franchise comparisons, this film serves as a fascinating and triumphant case study in how to not only avoid the sequel curse, but to successfully and brilliantly expand a cinematic universe. The most crucial and immediate point of comparison is naturally its own celebrated predecessor. When you compare with other films in the genre, The Conjuring 2013 is a modern benchmark, a masterclass in tension and atmosphere. It set an incredibly high bar, and the creative team behind The Conjuring 2 wisely understood that simply trying to replicate the formula would be a recipe for failure. Instead of giving audiences another isolated, claustrophobic haunted house story, they made the audacious choice to expand the scale, the scope, and the emotional stakes in every conceivable way. While the first film was an intimate, suffocating haunting confined to the Perrin farmhouse, the sequel transports the Warrens across the Atlantic to tackle the Enfield Poltergeist, one of the most famous, controversial, and publicly documented paranormal cases in modern history. This strategic shift immediately gives the film a grander, more epic feel. The story is no longer about a private family terror, but a public phenomenon, complete with media scrutiny, police involvement, and widespread skepticism. The visual style, guided by director James Wan's confident hand, is far more ambitious. The set pieces are larger, more complex, and more varied. We move from the subtle scares of the first film to show-stopping sequences like the introduction of the Crooked Man and the now iconic confrontation with the demonic nun. Furthermore, the emotional core of the franchise, the relationship between Ed and Lorraine Warren, is tested in a way it never was before, making The Conjuring 2 a more personal and profound story for our protagonists. This evolution makes The Conjuring 2 a perfect companion piece, a sequel that respects its origin while boldly carving its own path. The result is so effective that many fans are passionately split on which of the two is truly one of the top films in the genre, a debate that continues to rage in online forums and is a testament to the quality of both installments. Another of its most vital genre rivals is Insidious, Chapter 2, a film that offers a fascinating contrast as it was also a horror sequel from the same director, James Wan. This comparison is a study in two different philosophies of sequel making. Insidious, Chapter 2 delved deeper into the intricate and complex lore of its supernatural realm, the further, creating a time-bending, puzzle box narrative that was celebrated by some for its cleverness, but seen as convoluted and less emotionally resonant by others. With The Conjuring 2, Wan took a diametrically opposed approach. The emphasis is less on complex mythology and more on the raw, grounded human drama of the Hodgson family and the deepening bond between the Warrens. The horror in The Conjuring 2 stems not from a complex supernatural rulebook, but from the emotional terror of a family being torn apart and the fear of losing a loved one. This steadfast focus on character and emotion is arguably why The Conjuring 2 was more universally embraced by critics and audiences, and why it has become such an enduring fan favorite. It proved that a horror sequel could be bigger, louder, and scarier without sacrificing the heart and soul that made the original so special. This approach also set it apart from other horror sequels of the era, such as Sinister 2, which was criticized for over-explaining its central mystery and thus diminishing its power. The Conjuring 2 expanded its world while making its new threats even more terrifying and mysterious. At the time of its release in the packed summer of June 2016, The Conjuring 2 faced truly formidable box office competition. It wasn't up against other horror films, it was thrown into the arena with massive 9-figure blockbusters. Its opening weekend rivals were the huge video game adaptation Warcraft, backed by a global gaming fanbase, and the Magic Heist sequel Now You See Me Too, a follow-up to a surprise worldwide hit. On paper, a horror sequel, even a highly anticipated one, should have been crushed by these larger, more mainstream 4-quadrant films. The industry expectation was that The Conjuring 2 would serve as successful counter-programming, performing well within its genre but ultimately coming in third place. However, the film didn't just hold its own, it delivered a stunning triumph. It decisively beat both Warcraft and Now You See Me Too at the domestic box office on its opening weekend, a a shocking victory that proved the immense power of its brand and the fierce loyalty of its fanbase. This win was a statement. It solidified The Conjuring as a true heavyweight franchise, capable of competing and winning in the most crowded and competitive months of the year. In the wider landscape of horror, its success set it apart from countless other franchise entries, solidifying its place in any serious conversation about the best franchise comparisons in modern cinema and paving the way for future horror blockbusters like it to be treated with the event-level respect they deserve. From a market analyst's perspective, greenlighting a sequel to a breakout hit like The Conjuring seems like an obvious decision. However, the sequel game is fraught with risk. To understand the financial strategy behind The Conjuring 2, we must analyze the studio's market share projection in a crowded summer market and their crucial saturation risk assessment regarding sequel fatigue. This was not just about making another horror movie, it was a calculated bet to elevate a successful film into a premier, bankable franchise. First, let's establish the financial landscape with a comparative revenue analysis. The primary ROI benchmark was, of course, the original film. The Conjuring 2013 was an anomaly of profitability, earning a massive $320 million worldwide on a lean $20 million budget. This set an incredibly high bar. The competition in June 2016 presented a different picture. Universal's Warcraft was a massive gamble, with a production budget of $160 million. Lionsgate's Now You See Me Too had a substantial budget estimated around $90 million. The studio's budget versus performance. Analysis of these competitors would have been critical. They knew their film, with a reported budget of $40 million, would be far more profitable than its rivals even if it grossed significantly less. This is the inherent advantage of the horror genre. The genre ROI average for supernatural horror, particularly for established brands, is consistently higher than almost any other genre. With this context, the studio's market share projection for The Conjuring 2 would have been ambitious. They weren't just aiming to recapture the audience of the first film, they were aiming to expand it. The goal was to position the sequel as a genuine summer event film, capable of stealing market share from the bigger budget blockbusters. Their projection was likely based on the assumption that Warcraft would appeal to a specific gaming niche, and that Now You See Me Too might not have the same novelty as its predecessor. This created a clear lane for The Conjuring 2 to capture a significant slice of the mainstream adult audience. A realistic internal market share projection would have been to target a global gross of around 300 million, aiming to come close to the original's massive success. However, this opportunity was tempered by a significant threat, requiring a careful saturation risk assessment. The biggest risk for any sequel is audience fatigue. Many horror franchises see diminishing returns with each new entry. The studio had to ask, would audiences still be invested in the Warrens? Had the haunted house genre become oversaturated in the 3 years since the first film? Their saturation risk assessment would have identified this as the primary challenge. The key mitigating factors were the return of director James Wan, whose name had become a seal of quality for horror fans, and the attachment of another famous real-life case, the Enfield Poltergeist, which provided a compelling new marketing hook. This wasn't just The Conjuring again, it was a whole new famous story. Ultimately, the investment paid off handsomely, delivering an excellent risk-adjusted ROI. The film grossed $321 million worldwide, almost perfectly matching the original's total on a doubled budget. Key stat, while the budget for The Conjuring 2 was 100% higher than the original, its box office was nearly identical, demonstrating a remarkably stable brand value and a successful mitigation of sequel fatigue. The studio's market share projection proved to be incredibly accurate, as the film thrived against its more expensive competition. The saturation risk assessment correctly identified that the brand's quality and the return of the original creative team would overcome any potential audience apathy. This successful navigation of risk and opportunity is why The Conjuring 2 is not just a great horror sequel. It's a brilliant piece of financial strategy that solidified the franchise as one of Warner Bros.' most valuable and reliable assets. From meme references of its most iconic scene to viral fan clips that sparked massive social media reactions, The Conjuring 2 2016's cultural impact rivals any competitor's pop culture influence, creating fan engagement that lives on through TikTok clips and Reddit theories. If the first film lit the match, the sequel poured gasoline on the fire. The Conjuring 2 didn't just continue the story of the Warrens, it massively expanded the universe's cultural footprint, introducing new demonic entities and creating unforgettable, iconic moments that have become deeply embedded in the horror genre. The film's legacy is not just in its terrifying story, but in the incredible wave of fan-driven content, online discussions, and real-world phenomena that it inspired. The single greatest contribution of The Conjuring 2 to the landscape of pop culture influence is the introduction of the demon Valak, in the guise of the terrifying nun. This character became an instant horror icon, a figure of pure, chilling evil. The scene where the nun emerges from a painting to terrorize Lorraine Warren is one of the great modern horror sequences and immediately became one of the film's most significant viral moments. This led to an explosion of fan art, memes, and social media reactions. The image of the demonic nun is so powerful that it has become a go-to costume for Halloween and a staple at horror conventions. The meme references are endless, with the nun's terrifying visage being photoshopped into countless humorous and scary scenarios. This character's breakout success is a perfect example of how a sequel can introduce new elements that become even more popular than the originals. Beyond the nun, The Conjuring 2 is also famous for another creepy creation, the Crooked Man. Based on an old English nursery rhyme, this spindly, unsettling figure starred in a standout sequence that felt like a dark fairy tale come to life. This character also sparked a huge amount of fan engagement, with many fans creating their own art and stories about him. The film is packed with these kinds of memorable moments, from the chilling interview with Janet Hodgson to the terrifying scene with Bill Wilkins in the armchair. These scenes have been dissected and analyzed in countless viral fan clips and YouTube videos, with fans breaking down the scares frame by frame. The film is also rich with Easter eggs and fun facts that fuel online discussion. One of the best Reddit theories to emerge was the deep dive into how Valak was subtly present throughout the entire film, with the letters of its name hidden in the background of several scenes long before its official reveal. This kind of clever foreshadowing rewards repeat viewings and encourages an active, investigative fanbase. A great piece of trivia is that the real-life audio recordings of the Enfield Poltergeist are played over the film's end credits, a chilling final touch that grounds the cinematic horror in a disturbing reality. These details, from clever Easter eggs to haunting cultural references, are what elevate The Conjuring 2 from a simple scary movie into a rich, layered text that fans continue to explore, discuss, and celebrate, ensuring its lasting impact through internet trends and passionate online communities. From a cultural perspective, creating an iconic new villain like the nun is a creative grand slam. From a financial perspective, it is the equivalent of discovering a new oil field. The cultural impact of The Conjuring 2 was not just a bonus. It was a powerful, monetizable event that dramatically increased the value of the entire franchise. Here, we'll analyze the financial implications of this cultural explosion, focusing on the incredible viral marketing ROI generated by its new characters and the long-term CPM uplift from engagement that followed. Let's begin with the most significant financial event to come out of this film, the creation of Valak, the nun. This character's breakout popularity was a perfect example of organic success, and it yielded a phenomenal viral marketing ROI. The studio didn't need to spend millions of dollars telling people the nun was scary. The fans did it for them. Every meme, every TikTok video, and every Halloween costume was an unpaid advertisement that built brand awareness for the character. This massive wave of organic buzz had a direct and immediate financial benefit. It created a built-in audience for a spin-off. The studio was able to greenlight The Nun 2018 with an incredibly high degree of confidence, knowing that a massive potential audience already existed. This is a clear example of engagement-driven revenue, where the passion of the fan community directly informs and de-risks future production decisions. Key stat: a successful spin-off character can generate a new, independent revenue stream worth hundreds of millions of dollars, all stemming from the organic popularity created in the parent film. This represents a near-infinite viral marketing ROI on the initial character design and marketing. This high level of engagement also leads to a significant CPM uplift from engagement for all content related to the franchise. When a character like the nun becomes a cultural phenomenon, search volume for that character skyrockets. This makes any ad space on official YouTube clips, fan theory videos, or articles about the character more valuable to advertisers. The studio benefits from this CPM uplift from engagement by earning more ad revenue from its own digital content, but the effect is broader, creating a more valuable ecosystem for the entire brand online. This constant, high-quality engagement signals to algorithms that the content is popular, leading to better organic reach, which in turn leads to even more engagement. It's a self-sustaining cycle of value creation. Furthermore, the introduction of culturally resonant new characters dramatically increases the franchise's brand partnership value. A brand's willingness to partner with a film is directly tied to its relevance. With the addition of The Nun and The Crooked Man, The Conjuring 2 provided a whole new roster of iconic, marketable characters. This makes the franchise a more attractive partner for collaborations in video games, like Dead by Daylight, theme park attractions, like Halloween Horror Nights, and high-end collectibles. This, in turn, allows the studio to charge a higher IP licensing premium. The fee a toy company is willing to pay for the rights to make a Nun action figure is significantly higher than for a generic demon, because The Nun has proven cultural staying power. This ability to engage in trending monetization, by rapidly developing and releasing products based on breakout characters, is a key component of the franchise's financial strategy. The cultural impact of The Conjuring 2 was therefore not just a creative success. It was a strategic financial multiplier that introduced new, highly profitable revenue streams and significantly increased the overall value of the entire Conjuring universe. From nominations at major genre awards for its outstanding direction to the massive awards buzz surrounding its performances, The Conjuring 2 2016's critical acclaim rivals any competitor's film festival highlights, earning a stellar Rotten Tomatoes score and glowing audience ratings across all streaming platforms. It's one thing for a horror film to be a critical success, it's another thing entirely for its sequel to achieve the same level of respect. Horror sequels are notoriously difficult to get right, and they are often met with skepticism from critics. But The Conjuring 2 defied the odds. It not only lived up to the sky-high expectations set by its predecessor, but in the eyes of many, it surpassed them, earning a wave of positive critic reviews and prestigious nominations that solidified the franchise's reputation for quality. This level of acclaim is a key reason why it remains one of the top-rated movies in modern horror. The first stop for any discussion of critical reception is, of course, the Rotten Tomatoes score. The Conjuring 2 landed an excellent 80% certified fresh rating from critics. This is a remarkable achievement for a horror sequel. The critical consensus praised the film for being a superior sequel that built upon the original's strengths while delivering a bone-chilling new story. Many critic reviews specifically highlighted James Wan's masterful direction, the emotional depth of the story, and the powerhouse performances from the cast, particularly Vera Farmiga and Madison Wolfe, who played the tormented Janet Hodgson. This critical support was once again matched by overwhelmingly positive audience scores. The film holds a strong 80% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes and an impressive 7.310 on IMDb, showing a rare and powerful alignment between professional critics and mainstream moviegoers. These consistently high audience ratings have made The Conjuring 2 a must-watch film for anyone looking for high-quality horror on streaming services. The positive reviews and strong word-of-mouth generated significant awards buzz within the genre community. While, like its predecessor, it was largely overlooked by mainstream awards like the Oscars and Golden Globes, The Conjuring 2 was a major contender in the awards that celebrate genre filmmaking. The film received several nominations at the prestigious Saturn Awards, including a nomination for Best Horror Film. The very fact that a sequel was being considered for the top prize at these festivals and awards shows is a testament to its incredible quality. Many critics and fans argued that the performances, especially from the young Madison Wolfe, were truly award-winning performances that deserved broader recognition for their emotional depth and technical difficulty. Ultimately, the critical acclaim for The Conjuring 2 did something more important than just win trophies. It cemented the franchise's brand identity. It proved that the success of the first film was not a fluke. It established The Conjuring as a name that stood for quality, craftsmanship, and genuinely terrifying, character-driven horror. This reputation, built on the back of 2 consecutive films with stellar Rotten Tomatoes scores and universal praise, is the franchise's most valuable asset. It created a level of trust with the audience that is incredibly rare, ensuring that any film bearing the Conjuring name would be met with high expectations and massive fan anticipation. In the world of film finance, critical acclaim is more than just a matter of pride, it's a powerful financial catalyst. The overwhelmingly positive reception for The Conjuring 2 provided a significant and measurable financial benefit, acting as a powerful force multiplier that enhanced the film's profitability and long-term value. We can analyze this impact through the lens of 2 core financial concepts: the immediate ROI multiplier that comes from positive reviews and award nominations, and the long-term critical acclaim multiplier that increases the asset's value across its entire life cycle. First, let's address the investment. As with any major release the studio hopes will garner awards attention, there is an associated award campaign cost. For a high-profile sequel like The Conjuring 2, the studio would have run a targeted, for your consideration campaign aimed at genre-specific awards bodies like the Saturn Awards. This is a much more focused and cost-effective approach than a full-blown Oscar campaign. The estimated award campaign cost for this kind of targeted effort would likely be in the range of $500,000 to $1 million. The goal of this spend is to secure nominations and wins that can then be used as powerful marketing tools. The return on this investment comes in several forms. While a horror sequel doesn't typically see a massive post-award revenue boost at the box office in the same way a Best Picture winner does, the critical acclaim acts as a powerful ROI multiplier in other ways. Strong reviews and a certified fresh score from Rotten Tomatoes are incredibly effective at combating audience skepticism about sequels. This positive reception encourages audiences who might have been on the fence to buy a ticket, and it helps to generate strong word of mouth, which can extend the film's theatrical run and increase its final gross. This award-driven revenue is not just about a post-win bump. It's about the increased revenue generated throughout the entire release window because the film is perceived as being high quality. The more significant and lasting financial benefit, however, comes from the critical acclaim multiplier. This is the long-term compounding value that a strong reputation provides. A critically acclaimed sequel is a rare and valuable asset. It dramatically enhances the brand's reputation for quality, which has a direct impact on prestige pricing for all future deals. When Warner Bros. Negotiates the streaming monetization rights for the entire Conjuring franchise, the fact that the first two core films are both certified fresh is a massive bargaining chip. It allows them to command a much higher licensing fee than a franchise with a hit-or-miss track record. This prestige pricing applies across the board, from international distribution to television syndication. Key stat. A film franchise with multiple critically acclaimed entries can often command a 20–30% higher licensing fee for its entire library compared to a franchise with inconsistent reviews, even with similar box office numbers. This is the critical acclaim multiplier in action. It also leads to a significant streaming royalty bump, as the films are more likely to be featured and recommended on streaming platforms, driving consistent engagement and revenue for years. The critical success of The Conjuring 2 was therefore not just an artistic victory. It was a crucial financial event that solidified the franchise's status as a premium, blue-chip intellectual property, ensuring its profitability and relevance for the long term. As The Conjuring 2, 2016, cements its film legacy with franchise potential that rivals any competitor's universe expansion, fans speculate on sequels and spin-off ideas, while the director's next projects and upcoming movies hint at a thrilling future. We've arrived at the final chapter of our analysis, where we look back at the enduring impact of this incredible sequel and forward to the future it helped create. The film legacy of The Conjuring 2 is profound. It's the film that proved the success of the original was no accident. It solidified the series' reputation for quality, expanded its mythology in thrilling new ways, and introduced characters who would become horror icons in their own right. Its cinematic impact lies in its success as a sequel that honored its roots while bravely forging its own identity, thereby securing the long-term future of the entire cinematic universe. The franchise potential that was hinted at in the first film was fully realized in The Conjuring 2. The introduction of the demon Valak in the form of the terrifying nun was a stroke of genius. This character's breakout popularity immediately opened up a new and incredibly fertile avenue for universe expansion. It was a clear signal of the franchise's new franchise roadmap. Not only would we get more core sequels following the Warrens, but the villains themselves would become the stars of their own spin-off ideas. This brilliant strategy allowed the studio to build a much larger and more diverse cinematic world, with each new entity introduced in a main film having the potential to launch its own sub-franchise. The fan anticipation for these spin-offs, particularly The Nun, was off the charts, all thanks to the terrifying groundwork laid in The Conjuring 2. This successful expansion has led to years of exciting fan speculation about upcoming movies and rumored plotlines. After the success of The Nun, fans immediately began clamoring for a spin-off based on the other memorable entity from The Conjuring 2, The Crooked Man. While a film was announced, it has since been in development limbo, which has only fueled more rumored plotlines and fan theories about what that film could be. This constant cycle of announcements, speculation, and discussion is the lifeblood of a modern cinematic universe. It keeps the audience engaged and invested in the world even when there isn't a new movie in theaters. The film legacy of The Conjuring 2 is that it provided the most potent fuel for this fire, giving fans a whole new roster of monsters to obsess over. Of course, the cinematic impact of the film is also tied to its director, James Wan. The Conjuring 2 was, to date, his final time directing a film in the main series. His work on the first two films set the visual and tonal template for the entire universe. While he has remained on as a producer, shaping the franchise roadmap from behind the scenes, fans are always eagerly watching for news of the director's next projects. His departure from the director's chair for The Conjuring. The Devil Made Me Do It was a major topic of discussion, and there is always a lingering hope among fans that he will one day return to direct another core entry. The standard of excellence he set with The Conjuring 2 is the benchmark against which all other films in the universe are measured, a testament to his incredible vision and talent. We've reached the final investor summary, the point where we consolidate all our data and analysis to project the long-term financial performance of the asset. The success of The Conjuring 2 was a pivotal moment for the franchise, transforming it from a successful film with a sequel into a bona fide, multi-billion-dollar intellectual property. Our cumulative yield analysis must now look beyond a single film and assess the total value created by this sequel's success, focusing on how it acted as a powerful ROI multiplier for the entire brand. First, let's project the long-term franchise ROI. The success of The Conjuring 2 solidified the franchise as a reliable, repeatable, and highly profitable machine. By proving the model could work a second time, it dramatically de-risked future investments. The franchise has already grossed over $2.3 billion. When we consider the future with more spin-offs and potential mainline sequels, it's reasonable to project that the total box office for the universe could reach $3 billion to $4 billion over the next decade. Given the franchise's history of controlled budgets, a conservative estimate for the long-term franchise ROI for the entire endeavor, from the first film through its projected end, could easily fall in the 15x to 20x range on total production capital. This level of return is in the absolute top tier of Hollywood franchises. This leads to an updated estimate of the total IP lifecycle value. The introduction of a breakout character like the Nun, who could successfully carry her own spin-off franchise, was a massive value creation event. The Nun grossed over $365 million on a $22 million budget, making it the highest-grossing film in the entire universe. This single spin-off, born from The Conjuring 2, added hundreds of millions of dollars in profit to the brand. When you factor this in, along with all other monetization streams, a revised estimate for the total IP lifecycle value of the Conjuring universe could now be placed in the range of $2 billion to $4 billion. Key stat: a successful spin-off like The Nun can act as an ROI multiplier that adds an estimated 25–50% to the total IP lifecycle value of its parent franchise. This is a perfect example of successful franchise lifecycle profitability, where each new asset builds upon and enhances the value of the whole. However, we must also consider the ongoing sequel investment risk. The success of The Conjuring 2 also led to a significant increase in the budgets for subsequent films. This budget creep is a common risk in successful franchises. As expectations rise, so do the costs for talent, production values, and marketing. If a future installment underperforms at the box office, the higher budget means the financial loss will be more significant. This is the central challenge in managing the later stages of a franchise's life cycle. The studio must continue to find new stories and fresh talent to avoid audience fatigue, while also maintaining the fiscal discipline that made the franchise so profitable in the first place. In our final cumulative yield analysis, it's clear that The Conjuring 2 was the most important film in the franchise from a financial perspective. The first film was the brilliant spark, but the sequel was the explosion that forged a universe. It proved the concept was repeatable, introduced new and highly profitable sub-franchises, and cemented the brand's reputation for quality. Every dollar of profit the franchise has earned since 2016 is, in some way, a result of the success of the sequel. It was the ultimate ROI multiplier, a financial and creative triumph that transformed a successful movie into an enduring and immensely valuable global brand.
If you survived this financial autopsy, slash that like button and subscribe to Profit in Frames for more dissections of the horror genre's most profitable monsters. What scary movie should we put on the operating table next? Let us know your victim in the comments below.